Today we bring you a story of heartbreak, courage and unexpected destiny. A young orphan, abandoned and thrown into the streets, believes her life is over, until a mysterious billionaire prince steps into her path and changes everything. This is a story of hope rising from heartbreak, a reminder that one act of kindness can rewrite a person's future. If you enjoy story like this, please like this video and subscribe to this channel so you won't miss our next interesting story. Rain tapped gently, then steadily, against the broken windows of the old creaking house where Amara, a 16-year-old orphan, had lived her entire life. Each droplet seemed to echo the emptiness she had carried inside her for as long as she could remember. The house wasn't truly hers. It belonged to a distant relative who had taken her in only because no one else would. But warmth, comfort, and kindness had never lived under that roof. Instead, it had been a place of strict rules, sharp words, and quiet suffering. From the first light of dawn, Amara's life was a relentless routine. She would rise before anyone else, the chill of the floorboards seeping into her thin socks. She swept and mopped, drew water from the well, cooked meals that were barely appreciated, and washed the clothes of people who scarcely noticed her efforts. She asked for nothing, sought no affection, only a quiet corner to rest her weary head and a slim hope that one day, somehow, she might finish her schooling. Yet life rarely granted even the smallest wishes. That afternoon, a storm of voices erupted through the house. Amara had long grown accustomed to arguments, but this one carried a weight she hadn't anticipated. Her aunt, standing tall in the doorway, her eyes flashing with impatience and something colder, addressed her in a voice sharp enough to slice through the air. "Amara, you're grown now. This house is not your burden anymore. You must leave." Leave. The word felt like a physical blow. Amara's knees trembled, her heart thudding painfully against her chest. She had nowhere to go. She had no money saved, no family to turn to, and only the faded clothes she wore, garments that had seen far too many tears and too many days without washing. Her aunt's expression left no room for argument. The decision was final, absolute. Within moments, a small battered nylon bag was shoved into her hands. It contained the few belongings she had managed to accumulate over the years: a tattered notebook, a couple of books, and the fragile remnants of her childhood. The door slammed shut behind her with a finality that echoed through the empty house. And just like that, she was alone. Amara lowered herself to the cold, dusty roadside. She hugged the bag to her chest, as if holding it closer could somehow protect her from the vast, uncaring world. Rain seeped into her hair, ran down her face in icy streams, and soaked her thin clothes. The sky above had darkened, mirroring the heavy weight pressing on her heart. The streets, once familiar, now seemed endless and hostile. Every shadow whispered danger. Every passing footstep reminded her of her invisibility. Yet amidst the fear and the despair, a small voice in her chest refused to surrender. She whispered into the drizzle, barely audible over the sound of rain. "I will survive. Somehow. I will survive." She had no idea how. She only knew she had to. Little did she know, fate was already moving. Threads of a different life, one she could never have imagined, were weaving around her, waiting for the moment to catch her in a world far beyond the streets, beyond the pain, and beyond the heartbreak she had endured. Night had settled over the city like a dark velvet curtain, soft yet suffocating. The streets, once bustling with life, now hummed with the distant sounds of passing cars and the occasional shout echoing off empty alleyways. Amara walked slowly, her bare feet aching, her small bag clutched tightly to her chest. Every step seemed heavier than the last. She searched desperately for any place to rest, a corner, a doorway, anywhere that offered even a hint of safety. People brushed past her, their faces a blur of indifference. Her tears fell quietly, almost unnoticed, mixing with the drizzle that had begun again. She was invisible, a shadow of a girl who barely existed in the eyes of the world. Until she wasn't. At a quiet corner, the dim light of an old lamppost flickered over the wet pavement. The soft glow revealed the outline of a sleek black car that pulled up silently. The engine hummed like a quiet purr before the door opened, and a tall, striking young man stepped out. His suit was simple, impeccably tailored, but his calm, confident presence radiated something deeper. A quiet authority, like someone used to being in control yet unthreatening. His name was Prince Kelechi Adigwe. Of course, Amara didn't know that. To her, he was just a stranger, one of the few who seemed to care enough to pause to notice. "Are you all right?" The question was gentle, the kind of voice that demanded no answers but offered a safe space for truth. Amara froze. No one had asked her that in years. Not her aunt, not the neighbors, not anyone. She swallowed hard, her voice barely more than a whisper. I don't have anywhere to go." The young man's gaze softened. He noticed her trembling hands, her tired eyes that carried more sorrow than any 16-year-old should bear, and the small bag she held like a fragile shield. "Come," he said softly, stepping closer, but not too close. "Let me help you. You don't deserve to be out here alone." I don't know you," she murmured, a shiver running down her spine. Fear, pride, and exhaustion tangled in her words. He smiled, warm, reassuring, a smile that didn't demand trust but invited it. "You don't have to trust me yet," he said gently. "Just let me get you something to eat. That's all." Her stomach growled loudly, betraying her pride. She lowered her head, cheeks burning with embarrassment. He chuckled softly, a sound that made the night feel lighter, less threatening. "Come on. Let's find somewhere safe." They walked together, the streetlights casting long, quiet shadows around them. Prince Kelechi led her to a small, modest eatery tucked between two shuttered shops. The smell of warm food, rich and comforting, filled the cold air. He ordered a plate of food for her and another for himself, though he barely touched his own. As Amara ate, she hesitated at first, unsure if she should speak. But something about his presence, patient, attentive, unassuming, made her words flow. She told him everything. The harshness of her aunt, the loneliness, the fear, and the relentless struggle to survive. She spoke without shame, without hiding the bruises of her heart, and he listened, truly listened. When she finished, he leaned back, eyes thoughtful, voice soft yet certain. "I want to help you," he said. "Why?" she asked, confusion and suspicion mingling in her tone. "Because everyone deserves a chance," he replied simply. "Even someone like you, who the world has treated unfairly." For the first time in what felt like forever, Amara felt seen. Not as an orphan, not as a burden, not as someone invisible, but as a person with value, with dreams, and with a future that mattered. That night, for the first time in a long while, Amara slept without fear gnawing at her chest, unaware that this stranger, kind and mysterious, was about to change her life forever. The morning sun streamed gently through tall windows, painting golden streaks across the floor. Amara blinked against the brightness and slowly became aware of her surroundings. She lay in a guest room unlike anything she had ever imagined. Walls painted in soft, calming colors, a bed so large it seemed like a small island, and curtains that fluttered slightly with the morning breeze. Everything was pristine, modern, and impossibly grand. Her heart raced, a mixture of awe, fear, and disbelief. How had she, a girl thrown out into the streets, ended up here? A soft knock on the door startled her. "I hope you slept well," came a calm, gentle voice. Amara rose cautiously, clutching her bag to her chest like a shield. I slept okay," she murmured. Her eyes wandered around the room once more before settling on him. "Your house is very big." "Well, it's not exactly a house," he said, a small grin playing at his lips. "It's part of the royal residence." Amara froze. Her heart skipped a beat. "Royal? Yes," he said quietly, with a seriousness that made her chest tighten. "I'm a prince. But I didn't tell you yesterday because I wanted you to speak freely, without worrying about who I am." Her mind whirled. She had been talking to a stranger, someone kind, someone real. And he was royalty. She stumbled backward, almost dropping her bag. "Your Highness, I'm sorry. I didn't know." "Don't bow," he interrupted softly, his hand raised in a reassuring gesture. Don't call me your highness. I'm still Kelechi, the man who found you under a lamppost. That hasn't changed. Amara blinked, trying to steady herself. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She had been rescued, yes, but this was another world entirely. Every step, every word felt surreal. Slowly, carefully, she began to take in her surroundings, noticing details she had never seen before. Polished floors that reflected her image, artwork that seemed alive with color, and flowers arranged in delicate vases that smelled faintly sweet. Kelechi's presence was steadying. He noticed her hesitation and offered a small, encouraging smile. Take your time. You don't need to feel out of place here. He guided her gently through the house. She saw the staff bow politely yet warmly when he introduced her, and even the servants' quiet smiles reassured her that she belonged, at least for now. He arranged clothes for her, clean and elegant, and helped her settle into a room of her own. A room where she could finally feel safe. Yet even as Kelechi worked to make her feel comfortable, whispers began to stir beyond the walls. The kingdom was watching. Rumors, small and poisonous, began to spread through the palace corridors. Who was this orphan girl daring to step into the prince's world? How had she earned his attention? And not everyone was pleased with her presence. Someone close to the prince, someone whose opinion carried weight and influence, had already taken notice, and it was clear from the sharp, calculating glances Amara caught in passing that not everyone welcomed her arrival. Still, Kelechi remained her anchor. Slowly, she began to adjust to this new world, a world of quiet luxury, of unexpected kindness, and of possibilities she had never dared to imagine. For the first time in her life, she began to feel that perhaps, just perhaps, she might belong here. The palace, grand and imposing by day, took on a different character at night. Its tall, ornate windows reflected the moonlight, casting long shadows across polished floors. Every corner seemed to whisper secrets, and every hallway echoed with footsteps that could be heard if one listened closely enough. It was a place of beauty and power, but also of judgment, suspicion, and hidden threats. Princess Zara, Kelechi's cousin, was the first to make her feelings clear. She had watched Amara's arrival with thinly veiled disdain, her eyes narrowing whenever the girl appeared in the halls. One afternoon, Zara confronted Amara in the library, her voice cold and sharp, cutting through the soft rustle of pages and the faint scent of polished wood. "You don't belong here," she said, her tone dripping with authority. "This place is not for people like you." Amara felt her chest tighten. Her heart squeezed painfully, but she refused to shrink. She had survived worse, and she would not allow this cousin's harsh words to undo her newfound courage. "I didn't ask to stay here," she whispered, her voice small but steady. "He helped me. That's all." "That's the problem," Zara snapped, stepping closer, her presence overwhelming. "He is too kind. Too foolish to see that you have no place in our world. You're nothing but an orphan, a shadow of someone who doesn't exist here." From that day, Zara made it her mission to make Amara's life difficult. Small, cruel actions appeared at first as mere coincidences. A sharp remark whispered just loud enough for others to hear, a cold glare that made Amara's stomach knot, subtle obstacles meant to embarrass her in front of the staff. Each encounter left Amara drained, questioning herself. But Kelechi noticed. One evening, when the palace gardens were quiet, lit only by soft lanterns that shimmered across the neatly trimmed hedges, Kelechi found Amara sitting alone on a stone bench. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap, and her gaze was distant, staring at the moonlight dancing on the fountain's surface. "Amara, what's wrong?" he asked, his voice gentle but insistent. She hesitated, swallowing back the lump in her throat. I don't think I belong here," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your cousin, she's right. Maybe I was never meant for this world." Kelechi shook his head firmly, sitting beside her. His presence was steady, grounding, like an anchor in the storm that had become her life. "You belong where your heart is respected," he said softly, meeting her eyes. "And with me you're safe. I promise you that." Her heart fluttered in ways it had never done before. She had never felt truly safe, not like this, not with someone who seemed to see her for who she really was. "Why do you care so much?" she asked, her voice trembling with vulnerability. He looked at her deeply, his eyes holding a warmth and sincerity that made the world outside fade. "Because your strength inspires me. And because I feel something I've never felt before. Something I can't ignore." Amara's cheeks warmed, and for the first time, she allowed herself to hope, to feel that perhaps this world, this strange and opulent palace, could be a place where she truly belonged. But the shadows of the palace never disappeared completely. That night, Zara observed them together from a distance. Every laugh, every shared glance, every quiet moment in the garden confirmed her worst fears. The prince was falling for the orphan girl. And Zara, with pride and entitlement sharp in her heart, knew she would not allow this to happen without a fight. The game had begun. The palace buzzed with whispers that carried through its grand halls like wildfire. Every servant, every noble, and every visitor seemed to know about the orphan girl who had quietly captured the attention of the prince. Soon enough, the rumors reached the king himself, a man both wise and powerful, whose judgment could shape destinies. "Who is this orphan?" the king demanded one evening, his deep voice echoing in the chambers. "Why is she living in our palace? How did she earn such attention?" Kelechi met his father's stern gaze without hesitation. "Father, she is a good person. She deserves help." The king's eyes narrowed. "Help her from a distance," he warned. "Do not forget who you are or who she is. This is not a world for someone like her." Kelechi's jaw tightened. He could not abandon her. He could not ignore the courage, honesty, and kindness she had shown him, traits the world had failed to recognize. So Kelechi did something bold. He arranged a private audience, bringing Amara before the king. She stepped into the royal chamber, her small hands clasped nervously, her head bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper, "I am grateful for your kindness in allowing me to stay. I do not take it for granted." The king studied her carefully. He noticed the resilience in her eyes, the quiet dignity in the way she carried herself, and the strength that had allowed her to survive against impossible odds. For a long moment the room was silent. Finally, the king's expression softened. "I see why Kelechi values you," he said slowly. "Your courage, your honesty. These are qualities not easily found. Very well, she may stay. But remember, Kelechi, you and she must never forget who you are, and neither must she." Kelechi smiled, a mixture of relief and quiet triumph in his eyes. At last, Amara had the king's blessing to remain in the palace. The very next morning, he summoned Amara to the royal hall. Sunlight poured through the massive windows, illuminating the golden accents of the room. Amara entered hesitantly, her heart pounding. "Amara," Kelechi began, his voice steady and sincere. "I want you to stay. Not as a guest. Not as someone I rescued. But as someone important to me." Her breath caught. "Kelechi. I don't know if I'm worthy," she whispered, her voice trembling with awe. "You are worthy," he said firmly, taking a step closer. "Not because of where you come from, but because of who you are. Your heart, your courage, and your kindness. These make you valuable, irreplaceable." The palace staff gasped softly. Nobles exchanged astonished glances. Princess Zara froze, her pride and entitlement silenced by the truth of Kelechi's choice. Amara felt a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she had never known before. For the first time in her life, she felt chosen, valued, and loved. Kelechi did not stop there. He arranged for tutors to help her continue her education, opening doors she had only ever dreamed of. He promised to guide her, protect her, and support her in every step of her journey. Slowly but surely, the walls of fear, doubt, and loneliness that had surrounded her life began to crumble. Her life had changed forever, not because a prince had rescued her, not because of wealth or luxury, but because someone had finally believed in her. Amara smiled softly, tears glistening in her eyes. She realized that life, even in its harshest moments, could bring unexpected kindness and hope. Courage, compassion, and belief could truly rewrite a destiny. From that day forward, the palace no longer felt intimidating or cold. It felt like a home, a place where she was safe, respected, and loved. And as she glanced at Kelechi, she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would face them with confidence, because someone had seen her worth, and so had she. Every destiny can change when kindness meets courage. Amara was thrown out, abandoned, and forgotten, yet life led her to someone who recognized her true worth. Never underestimate the power of compassion. Never stop believing that your story can change, because it can. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next amazing story coming your way.